Hello to all. I hope you are doing great. Welcome to our Nature Talks, Sustainability and Biodiversity. So before we begin, can you tell me what is, unique about our planet that sustains life? You can write in the chat box or you can answer as well. So what makes our Earth unique? We're going to go through that in particular nice detail. So now you can read this through while I explain to you what's going on around us, what's going on truly in the natural world. So, our home, Earth, we can say, is a rocky terrestrial planet. It is a solid and active surface with mountains, valleys, canyons, plains, and so much more. And Earth is special because, it is an ocean planet as we know it. And 70% of Earth's surface is covered with water. Earth's global oceans, which cover, 70% of the Earth's surface, has an average depth of about 2.5 miles, which is 4 kilometers, and contains 95%, 97% of all life on Earth. We need water as well. So near the Earth's surface, as we know it, is the atmosphere. And it consists of around 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, and 1% of other gases, such as, let's say, argon, carbon, and neon. And carbon I meant by carbon dioxide. The atmosphere affects Earth's long-term climate and short-term local weather, and shields us from much more harmful radiation coming from the sun. And of course, Earth, as we know it, is so far the only hospitable planet that we know, and it is very hospitable temperatures and mix of chemicals have made life possible here. And it's truly extraordinary because, most notably, Earth is unique in that the most our planet is covered with water, as you mentioned earlier, and since the temperature allows liquid water to exist in all three phases, solid, liquid, and gas, Earth's vast ocean provide a convenient place for life. And to begin with, it started about 3.8 billion years ago. Of course, what happened at first? At first, the Earth was a ball of molten rock. The surface solidified to a solid crust, and as it cooled down and contracted, and cracks appeared, volcanoes shot molten rock and gases from its surface, and the first atmosphere, mainly of carbon dioxide and water, was formed. Condensing water vapor fell, back into the surface, and over many millions of years, plant life developed in these warm, shallow seas. The plants used, as we know, carbon dioxide in photosynthesis, a process they use to make their own food, and they put oxygen into the atmosphere. Once sufficient oxygen was present, animal life began. The development of plant and animal life over many millions of years has led to the Earth's incredible biodiversity. But does anyone know what is biodiversity? Anyone can answer the term biodiversity. It doesn't matter. We can also be wrong as well. So any idea by what is meant by biodiversity? You can unmute and you can speak or write in the chat box.
Biodiversity is the variety of life on Earth.
Yes, it can be that. Exactly correct. Anyone else that wants to add on to Sana's point? Anyone has any other points to speak about biodiversity? We of course hear it a lot. Biodiversity laws, biodiversity itself, it's all around us. So what is biodiversity?
Biodiversity is different species of animals living in an ecosystem or an environment.
Exactly, and Daniel also said it refers to every living thing, and that's absolutely correct as well. So, the term biodiversity actually means biological diversity, and it refers to the variety of life on Earth and its levels from genes to, let's say, ecosystems, and can encompass, the evolutionary, ecologically, and cultural processes that sustain life. Biodiversity includes not only, species we consider that are rare or threatened or endangered indeed, but also every living thing that we know. From humans to organisms we know little about, such as, let's say, microbes, fungi, and invertebrates. Of course, over generations, all life on Earth, or indeed all species that are currently alive today, have evolved unique traits that make them distinct from other species. Scientists are interested in how much biodiversity there is in a global scale. So given that there is so much biodiversity to discover, they also study how many species exists in a single ecosystem, that is a forest or a grassland or a tundra or a lake. Let's say a single grassland can contain a wide variety of life. It can contain a range of species from, let's say, beetles to snakes to antelopes to lions to gazelles, all these animals. And ecosystems that host the most biodiversity tend to have ideal environmental conditions, and they contain a wide variety of conditions, from, let's say, for plant growth and like let's say the soil quality, and the amount of animals that live there, the soil fertility, and all these things are mattering. For example, let's say looking at samples of soil, we can, or let's say water, through a microscope, reveals a whole world of bacteria and other microorganisms. And it's truly extraordinary, a different world rather than ours, what we see or what we hear. All of these species work together to survive and maintain their ecosystems. Many species provide important benefits to humans, including food, clothing, and medicine. Much of Earth's biodiversity, however, is in threat, because, as we know, due to human activities, that disturb and even destroy the natural world. Pollution, let's say, climate change and population growth, overfishing, all are threats to biodiversity. These threats have caused, an unprecedented rise in the rate of, the species extinctions. Some scientists estimate that half of all species on Earth will be wiped out within the next century if we don't take action. What anyone, of course, knows, what all have we done that has led us to such a unique time in our history? One where, we cannot do any mistakes and we have to help save our planet. Anyone, what have we done? Whether it's, how does climate change affect our planet? So what is exactly that we have done?
We have done overfishing, poaching, hunting, and plastic
what more?
pollution.
There's a
and
lot,
much
yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of going on about our natural world, unfortunately. And each time, we are putting more forces on the natural world. And I myself, when I go and explore the natural world, when I research on something, it's really sad, at the amount of biodiversity we're losing. And of course, let's say, the natural world is not just nice to have. It is related to all of us, The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, all comes from biodiversity, all comes from the natural world. And the main thing that is going on, with climate change and all these problems, is that, we have actually flattened entire forests to make way, for farming, and we have also netted fish almost there, until their numbers almost collapsed, and pushed species to the brink of extinction at an alarming rate. Let's say equine species as rhino. Rhino, of course, I've heard it used a lot of times, rhino especially, or dolphin, bird, and frog, and have become extinct in the past few decades. And unfortunately, we are facing Earth's 6th mass extinction. And there's actually a twist sort of thing over here. Globally, about 1/3 of all species are threatened with extinction. That include of 29% of all amphibians, 21% of all mammals, and 12% of all birds. If we do not stop, the threats to biodiversity, we could be facing another mass extinction and dire consequences, to the environment and human health, and of course our own livelihoods. But there is a lot, of course, we can do, and we'll get to that soon as well. So the next, we have got an animal I think most of you have heard of, which is called a pangolin. because pangolin scales are made of the same material of hair and nails and let's say animal horns as well. So they are made up of keratin, the same material that of course makes up our fingernails and hairs, and then and of course horns. Let's say these Arabian gazelle skull makes to mind. And pangolin scales, like rhino horns, have no proven medicine value. Pangolins are actually solitary and active mostly at night, so they're nocturnal and mostly on the ground. But some, like the black-bellied pangolin, also climb trees. But it's truly extraordinary the way animals protect themselves. So when threatened, what happens with the pangolin is that they roll into a ball. Let's say like a hedgehog. That's what happens. And and they can actually release a stingy fluid from their rear end, from a gland of their tails actually, and that can be a defense mechanism, and it smells pretty bad. Same like the smell comes from beetles when you touch them. So yes, you find the pangolin and you see it, don't touch it. That's the rule. Yeah. So the next we have got is about, we can say, the most fished animal to extinction. That's what I like to call it. It is the Atlantic bluefin tuna. But why is it important? Of course, like land predators, Atlantic bluefin tuna are very important in keeping the ocean's ecosystem in balance, to keeping different fish populations in check. And they are the fastest fish in the sea. The fastest. You cannot think of a fastest fish when it comes to the Atlantic bluefin tuna. And overfishing through their range, has driven their numbers to critically low levels. Atlantic bluefin tuna are, can you guess it? What-blooded, warm or cold-blooded? Anyone can guess it? Are they cold or warm-blooded? It's a question which is pretty tricky,
Warm?
You said warm, right?
Yeah.
And maybe anyone else? Warm or cold-blooded? Any idea? It sounds tricky. Because most fish are cold-blooded. But how do they turn out to be, warm-blooded? Well, yes, they are your own line.
They are cold-blooded?
Actually, they are warm-blooded, a unique trait in fish, Fish are usually not warm-blooded, but they are truly extraordinary. That's why I'm saying about it. And it's a rare among fish, A fish who has a warm blood, it's like me having a cold blood. That's rare, in the animal kingdom. And, what gives them their speed is that they can retract their dorsal fin and also pectoral fin as well into slots to reduce drag in the water. And some scientists think they have series of finlets that is going on, on their tails mainly, that even serve to reduce the water turbulence. And bluefin tuna have been eaten by humans for centuries. And it's not only eating 1 or 2 per year, but as a result, their stocks, especially of breeding age fish, have plumped. They have reached to a very low levels. And bluefin tuna, except their magnificent beauty, they are very important for the natural world. They help in maintaining ecosystems, eating, keeping the populations of animals in check, like the predators on our own land, the main predators on our own land. So it's a bit dangerous if we overfish to extinction. Our oceans can bloom. Let's say it can bloom in squid and different things, and that can have bad consequences. We may not know it. So before we move on, let's see on what is a sustainable future about, and what is the benefits about it. Because of course, usually most people think of, when sustainable future comes, I have to lose my habit, I have to drive less, I have to walk more, I have to lose the plastic. It's not all about that. It's a sustainable future is full of gains. Gains in different ways, and we're going to find out now. I hope you can hear it now.
Our planet is dramatically changing by irreversible human activities, from plastic in the oceans to climate change affecting our whole planet. I've been researching on animals and plants for the past 6 years, and I've been learning a lot about the natural world, from humpback whales to Arabian gazelles to Ethiopian hedgehogs and much more. But then, shall we see? Let's go on the ground and hopefully it'll come out. Yet I've also learned how human activities can have an effect on the natural world. Different animals exist also in deserts. For example, this oasis skimmer. What these dragonfly species do is that they hunt. I would like to imagine a future in which humans and nature can thrive. A future in which our oceans are healthier and do not contain plastic. I would like to imagine a future in which we can find nature right on our doorsteps. Please come on. A sustainable future would mean a better world for us all. We usually think of sustainability on what things we must give up and forget what we gain. But the true reality is that a sustainable planet is full of gains. It's a world in which we gain cleaner, fresh air and water. It's a world in which we gain cleaner and healthier oceans that will regenerate and provide us more food. It's a world in which eating more plants brings greater health and less expensive foods. And most important of all, it's a world full of nature to explore. In distant lands, in the seas, or right on our doorsteps within our cities. It's a world in which Homo sapiens and nature can thrive. It's now time to save our planet, or indeed save ourselves. It's our story, the story of all life on Earth. And doesn't stop here. The final chapter of Earth, our living planet, is ours to write. We can become the heroes of our own story.
I hope it was pretty inspiration for you all. I'm not that sad because you know it's pretty sad seeing our natural world diminishing it at such rates. And so, what's going on around us? You know, exactly. So, why do we have to bring up the idea of sustainable future? Does anyone know it? Why do we need a sustainable future?
Because our time is running out, Irfan.
Exactly, Ms. Melody. Yeah, our time is running out.
We can't continue at this pace. We're writing checks that our Earth cannot cash for us. We can't continue using up all of our valuable resources, and some of us are using more than others. So those that are in the developing countries, they are not using up the resources as much as we are, but they see us using it and they say, well, we want what you've got. And we're a throwaway society. Our developed worlds, we throw away. When I came to Dubai in 2019, I noticed that many of your restaurants and your venues, there was no recycling bins. Everything went into one big dustbin, and I was shocked that you don't have. Now, some countries have 16 dustbins, 16. They even sort the different types of plastic in their roads, in the municipalities. So we've got to start living sustainably. We need to cut back on meat. We need to learn more.
It's the very thing that is affecting us on our planet right now. And sunlight, shines onto the earth. And where the energy is absorbed and released back into the atmosphere. And that's why, the Antarctic is dramatically important. Because the amount of heat which comes in, the same way like a mirror, it reflects the heat and light. That's very important about what is happening due to climate change and our continuous, release of carbon dioxide. Yeah, it is melting. Of course, there's a person I've been meeting, and I've been in a Zoom call called Sir Robert Swan, and he has a very famous quote about nature. And he is the first person to spend to move from the South Pole to the North Pole and such. And he has such a wide variety of knowledge in the Antarctica, and he is like doing expedition and Zoom calls about the Antarctic's unique wildlife. And it's truly astonishing that that actually the the Arctic is the only untouched wilderness on Earth, the only untouched, because of course it's very hard to live for us over there, and so it's not yet it's still remaining untouched. And in the atmosphere, what happens is that greenhouse gas molecules trap some of the heat, and then there escapes to the space. The more greenhouse gases concentration in the atmosphere, the more we can say we have got heat trapping gases, and levels of greenhouse gases have some gone up and down in the Earth's history, as I mentioned earlier, but they have been fairly constant in the past few years, past few thousand years indeed. And global average temperatures had also stayed fairly constant over time, and until that is in the past few 150 years. And now humans have increased the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere at such an alarming rate. It's beyond our expectations. It's not something that I've read, but I've witnessed this myself. Animals dying due to climate change, plants. It's pretty unique and sad as well, because it's not okay. I'm losing an animal. It doesn't depend on me. We depend on the natural world. We depend on it very, very severely. The natural world doesn't depend on us. We depend on it, and I'm going to get to that as well soon. And it has been, of course, rise by third since the Industrial Revolution. If you have, of course, learning social studies, you know what the Industrial Revolution is. And changes in that have historically taken thousands of years are now happening over the course of decades. So animals are not having time to adopt. They're not having time at all to adopt, and that's very sad. And because of current let's say climate change are having an impact on many animals. As you can see, this is the normal levels of what we call the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The millennia atmosphere carbon dioxide has never been above this line. So it has been normal until now. Just see how much rise in this. It's dramatic. It's dramatic. Of course, from the graph you'll understand that how much rise we have had than the normal level that we can have. All over, just imagine when these all cause mass extinctions, then what can this do? This question, of course, has been going on in my mind for a very, very long time. What can this rise do? That's a question for all of us to answer, and which we will not find out until the next 30 or 20 years. And even the current extinction rates have increased. Oh God, just look at this evolution. This is, the natural evolution rate. This is it. And this is the current rate. This is the current rate. And this is also, dramatic. So we're not only losing wildlife, but we are losing our future as well. We are losing our future on Earth. And it's not about, you speaking to me that, okay, we're going to go to Mars and live. It's not, it's, Mars is a red planet. It's dry. It's not hospitable for life yet. So we have to keep the Earth. It doesn't have trees, If I want to go to Mars, I'd rather stay in Earth and die due to the lack of the natural world. Because over there, there's no nature. There's no nature at all. There's no animals for us to explore and be with. And the cause of current climate change is largely human activity, as we know it, like burning of fossil fuels, like natural gases, let's say oils and coals, and burning these materials, releases what we call greenhouse gases, as we mentioned earlier, in the Earth's atmosphere. There, these gases help heat from they keep heat from the sun's rays, only the sun's heat, because of course they have got some heat energy in them. And what's going on is that it's causing the Earth's temperature to rise, and the rise in the planet's temperature is called global warming, as we know it. And the warming of the planet can impact local and regional climates. But why do we care? That's the main thing. The global warming is likely the greatest cause of species extinction in this century. The IPCC says a 1.5 degrees Celsius average rise in temperature may put 20 to 30 of species in the world at the risk of extinction. If the planet warms, by or more than 2 degrees Celsius, most ecosystems will struggle. And I know, but we have got hope. Hope is what? Hope is ourselves. Hope is the natural world, planting more trees and all those actions, which we also will get, into more detail soon. So here we have got that was of course the most animals impacted by the biodiversity loss. And I've got the most places and most animals that are being impacted by global warming. Of course, when we dive in a coral reef, I myself love it. It's filled with extraordinary colors. It's like you're entering paradise underwater. But then, of course, if you remove your mask, you're going to die in that very paradise itself. And the main thing is that it shows the power of the natural world, the coral reefs. And scientists estimate that 25% of all marine species live in and around coral reefs, and that's huge if you consider the vast ecosystem of the ocean, and making them one of the most diverse habitats in the world. They act, as productive nurseries to many fish species, giving small fishes a home and a chance to grow. And coral are important for us in many reasons. They are, from practical point of view, they can help to protect coastlines from storm events. For instance, they help maintain the marine fisheries that are essential to a lot of people that are living in coasts and islands. But how do the coral reefs have such striking colors, such unique traits? And I'm going to tell you exactly what. And it's called symbiosis, a relationship of where one animal benefits from the other, and they both live together in this relationship, and they cooperate with each other for a living. And what happens is that there is an algae that grows on the corals called zooxanthellae, and they live inside the corals, which provide a tough shell, made from calcium carbonate. And of course, that's a protection for the algae. And in return, what happens is that in return, the algae provide their host with food produced through photosynthesis. And zooxanthellae, also provide corals with their striking colors, as we mentioned earlier. This symbiotic relationship, is very important and strongly dependent on the temperatures of the surrounding water. And as the water warms, what happens is zooxanthellae are expelled from the coral tissues, causing it to lose its color and a major source of food. This process is known as coral bleaching, right? I've heard of it a lot, coral bleaching, and that's what exactly is going on. But maybe we'll think, okay, this coral is bleached, so leave it, it's going to die. But it's not always the case, If the ocean temperatures come back to normal, they can recover the zooxanthellae or the algae, in time. But the process requires cooler temperatures. Warmer oceans also become more acidic, but you may see how. Of course, if you are in year 10 or 9, you may be studying about acids and bases, and that's exactly what's going on here. Ocean acidification, it is more difficult for corals to build their outer shells, which is of course made from carbon ions. So the ocean absorbs carbon dioxide released into the atmosphere by us, and the carbon dioxide, alters the chemistry of the water by reducing the pH, and a measure of acidity, which we call it, And water has a lower pH, is more acidic, and when the water, which is the pH of the seawater, is lowered as a result of CO2, the ability of carbonate ions, are reduced, or indeed are dramatically reduced. So what happens is one of the main building blocks of the exoskeletons of the calcium carbonate skeletons of these corals is reduced, and the corals have a tougher time building up or even maintaining their skeleton. And it's not only about corals, but shells and snails. All these things because they're made of calcium carbonate, their shells literally dissolve in the water, and that can have dire consequences for some species, like the Homo sapiens, that rely on biodiversity the most. And the most thing that we are throwing all our impacts on is turtles. Plastic pollution, poaching, and climate change. But of course, I think I've never heard of climate change affecting the sea turtles. And of course, we have got polar bears as well, who are having, being impacted by climate change. Of course, we know it how, because of their Antarctica being, reduced, the ecosystems. But now we have got sea turtles. I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when a sea turtle eats plastic and how it's impacted by climate change. And of course, I hope you're noting things down, because at the end, I've got a quiz which is out of 30 marks. And if you get it out of 28, 29, or 30, you're going to put a very nice certificate telling that you're a sustainability and biodiversity ambassador. And so, research shows that if a turtle eggs incubate below 81.8 degree Fahrenheit, the turtle hatchlings will be male. And if the turtles incubate above 87 degree, 87.8 degree Fahrenheit, the hatchling will be female. And temperatures that fluctuate between the two extremes will produce a mix of male and female baby turtles. And what happens is that the warming of the climate will produce more females, and more females cannot reproduce, and so they will be extinct, like the northern white rhino. And but you may say, okay, how is it possible that the turtles turn out to be male and female? Actually, what a turtle does, it digs one deeper hole. The first layer is, of course, eggs, and that eggs, of course, as we go deeper down, the heat doesn't act on the surface that much, so it's cooler. And so that first layer is going to be males, and the second one is going to be female. But the warming of the climate means it's actually very small. It's 81.8, which makes males, and 87.8, which makes females. Only 6 degree Fahrenheit. So that's very important. Only this much can impact the whole future of the species, so the sea turtles. And as we know it, sea turtles have been on our planet for many millions of years. And they have been, having been here since the time of dinosaurs, which is about 100 million years or so. And what is actually happening to them? We spoke about climate change, how that affecting them. Well, what about plastic? How is plastic affecting them? Of course, animals are not that dumb that they'll go and eat plastic.
Well, turtles love to eat jellyfish, and jellyfish can be easily. Jellyfish resemble plastic bags. Turtles can eat plastic bags, thinking jellyfish, which can harm them.
Yes, that's indeed true. So it's all more in detail of that. And Miss Melanie asked the question: what is the temperature where we are going to lose species? Of course, Miss Melanie, 1.5. If we reach the temperature of 1.5 degrees, a 1.5 degrees Celsius rise could mean the extinction of 20 to 30% of all species on Earth. 20 to 30%. And if it goes by 2 degrees Celsius, many ecosystems will struggle to survive. So, and if ecosystem survives, of course, ecosystems are alive in all the species, that are around them, So let's say if the ecosystem struggles, means the animals and plants that are inside them struggle the most. So yeah, the 2 degrees Celsius rise can have a dire consequence for all of us. But many marine animals are killed due to plastic pollution, and that's the main reason, because they're not like dumb. They're like, okay, wow, it looks nice, so let me go and eat it. But because let's say it's like sharks or different animals have this powerful sense of smell usually for finding food. That's what triggers them to go and eat the plastic. And experiments suggest that some species of seabirds and fish are attracted mainly by the plastic's odor. And over 1 million marine animals actually, including fish and sharks, and not only mammals but fish and sharks and turtles and all these birds that are living in the oceans, are killed each year due to plastic pollution. 1 million, that's mind blowing. I don't even think of it, And what actually happens is that when the algae, as you can see it here, grows on the plastic, the methyl sulfide is released, and DMS, which is actually released, is a compound known to attract different birds and fish who munch on the plastic instead of munching on the krill itself. They came up from the krill, produce the same smell, so they eat the plastic. But what is going on with the sea turtle, right? They have got pretty good eyesight and pretty good smelling as well. But they mistake this by what we call it, the look. Plastic looks like a jellyfish. But I also mistake it sometimes. So, inside a sea turtle's mouth, as we can see it here, right? It's right here. It looks, of course, much different than a human's. You're like, well, how can I have this in my mouth? Yeah, of course, it's different. Yeah, with spiny projections pointing inwards, towards the animal's throat. These are called papillae. The papillae line the turtle's esophagus from the opening of the mouth all the way to their stomachs. And they are made of the same protein, which is called keratin, the same which is in our fingernails and hairs as well. And not only do they protect the turtle's throat and mouth from the jellyfish stings, but they also help break down the food and expel excess salt water. This is also why it is so important to help out our sea turtle populations. We want sea turtles, to consume these stinging creatures, so the populations of jellyfish don't bloom, And sea turtles help keep the jellyfish populations in check, because sea turtles confuse jellyfish for other things floating in the oceans, like plastic grocery bags and balloons. However, it is, found out that older sea turtles actually target soft and translucent plastic. So it varies, between whether you're young or old, or whether you're different species. And plastic in an animal guts can prevent it for the food to get digested, and that can lead to very painful and slow death, a very slow and painful death. And of course, it also gets stuck in the papillae. The papillae are actually like, these spiny projections, so it may also, make the turtle suffocate due to, the lack of oxygen it gets. And so it's pretty sad. We're throwing climate change at turtles, we're trying poaching on the turtles, we're throwing plastic pollution at turtles as well. But you may say, okay, when an animal eats the plastic, the plastic is gone, it's digested, but it's not. As the plastic bag can take up to 1,000 years to break down. Once an animal dies and decays, after eating a plastic, the plastic is then again feed back into the marine environment, and it carries on killing more and more and more and more and more wildlife populations. It's pretty sad, I've never seen a sea turtle myself, up close to be able to handle them, but I've seen, and they are pretty cool animals, pretty cool. Just imagine they were before us, they were alive before us during the time of dinosaurs, and now they are dying because of us. And we have got the rarest, the most endangered sea turtles here, which is the Cape Randy sea turtle. It's pretty sad, And so, what can we do for our planet? That's, of course, the question which we all ask ourselves. What can we do for our planet? What can we do, as individuals? And does anyone know the answer to that? Is anything, have you done anything in your daily life to, reduce the impacts of climate change, or plastic pollution, or all environment problems? Have you done anything to stop these impacts? Exactly, as Miss Melanie also says, rewilding the planet. Sorry, that's what she says. They say the same thing, rewilding the planet. But how can you rewild the planet? Of course, you can see all these things: planting more trees, eating less meat, having, controlling the amount of fish we take, having a sustainable fishing, spending more time in the natural world, and also avoiding the use of plastic. But the main thing which I think all of us can do is to avoid waste. Waste of all types. Waste, exactly, local trees. Native trees have got suited to the environment, as Ms. Melanie has said. And because, see, if I bring an avocado and plant it in the UAE, it's not that adopted, it may have a slow growth rate, or it may, not have that much of effectiveness in getting carbon dioxide. And what happens is that, if you plant native trees, they are adopted, they can, reduce much more carbon dioxide than if you plant non-native trees. And what happens is that I think you all are interested in having local wildlife attracted to your place, whether it's your balcony or whether it's your garden. And you can actually attract them. Planting trees, native trees in the UAE can attract hedgehogs. We have got Utopian hedgehog in the UAE. It can also attract hedgehogs in the UK. We have got hedgehogs in David Attenborough's garden as well. So, so we can attract hedgehogs in different animals, bees, black carpenter bees in the UAE, all these things. So just imagine how much fun we're going to have exploring and having a journal on, noting all these things. And you can speak, you can unmute your mics and speak. It'll be a great interaction if you can speak on what you have done as individuals to have, save the planet. I myself have reduced the impacts of plastic that's having in the oceans. Sometimes I go on do beach cleanups, and I also don't use plastic at all. It's always there, a reusable bottle or a glass is what I use. And I have also reduced the amount of, not even reduced, but stopped the amount of meat I eat, red meat, and for 2 years now. Because, red meat can have dire consequences. They can, it's pretty sad because, they can actually, many forests, many huge fields of forests are created because of, the amount of farmland we need to create for chickens or beef or cows and sheep and all these animals.
Arfan, I'm just going to put my hand up here. I think that industry and big industry must be changed from the inside out. And companies like, look at that, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola owns Sprite, they own Lipton's, they own most of these water, companies with these plastics. You and your fellow pupils and students and your peers, you need to become qualified transition engineers with this knowledge that you have. You need to go and study sustainability, sustainable business management. And then we need to get you into positions of power in governments, in regions, in municipalities. And you ban plastic, you ban it. You put out competitions for inventors to design biodegradable natural products that we must stop. It must be illegal to use plastics. And then you have to create projects where you collect all the plastics in the world and you reduce them down and you have to bury them somewhere. But we have to stop using plastic. We have to leave. Plastic is a byproduct of fossil fuels. It's just petrol. We need to take the plastics and turn them back into fuel, but we don't really want that petrol. We want to get the plastic out of the system altogether. That's me. I'm going to keep quiet now.
Yes, exactly. We have to stop plastic because people will think, okay, what we throw away doesn't, goes away. But what we, as the Attenborough says, what we throw away does not go away. It never goes away. Plastic comes back to us. The fish we eat. So you gotta really be careful. You don't throw, plastic in the ocean, then you inspire others not to do so. And I spoke about inspiration. It brought me to another my point. When you take action, whether it's reducing plastic in your life or living in plastic free, no matter where you live, or your sets of life, the health of the environment affects us all equally, and you're helping to make it a better planet for everyone who lives here. You set up examples, to people who look up to you. You're inspiring them to take action, and that inspiration is very important. And you're sacrificing your own convenience and for the greater good of humanity and for a better future for all of us. One person living with plastic won't make a global impact, but if that one person can make other people, take action, then we have got a ripple effect that snowballs to something impactful and enormous. Every one of us, can help limit global warming and to care for the planet by changing our habits and making choices that has less harmful effects in our daily lives. When it has a less harmful effect in the environment as well. We have the power to control the climate and build a more sustainable world. Climate change is real and every one of us have a role to play. Protecting our planet starts with you. But what happens if we don't take action? If we don't take action, you can imagine a world without insects to pollinate our crops. One where there is no plants to filter pollutants out of the air or to help lessen the impact of the extreme weather. Our planet will be very different than what we can imagine, and almost we could certainly, could not exist in. Nature is fundamental for our existence, providing numerous benefits and supporting our way of life. So by this thing, we are almost reaching the end. But before we reach the end, I hope you're ready with your pens and pencils, because we are about to draw now. And you have got around, let's say, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to draw. And you can send the artworks. If you have registered, you can send me the artworks again, and I'll be sharing on my social media account. So, you know, I like to call it conservation through creativity. Your creativity can be an act of conservation for others. It may help understand, you know, the unique traits of the pangolin, let's say, or different animals. So you have got 2 minutes to finish this drawing the pangolin, and you can also ask me questions if I've got any. So remember, the main thing which you can do is to living with less waste. Less waste is very important, and then after that comes living with less plastic, because that's also a waste product. And it comes back to us. So remember, it comes back to us. You better go. If you go, you know, it's not that it's not my garbage. You know, if you go to, that's what I always think of. You know, when I go to a beach cleanup, and I always go there and I see that, okay, it's my planet. You know, it's you know, it's not my garbage, but it's my planet, it's my future. So you can go and clean it up. So we've got a fun step-by-step drawing for you all. Make sure you share it with me, of course. I love them. So I have a question from you all. Who likes challenges?
I do.
You do. Okay, who else likes challenges?
Depends on what they are.
Yes, exactly. It depends on what they are. But then who likes challenges of any type? Let's say challenges of quizzes. Who likes quizzes as a challenge?
Yeah, I like quizzes and challenges both.
It's of course it won't be anything which I've...
things. I like doing things that are fun. I like challenges that are, you know, that are going to test me and push me creatively and physically and emotionally and mentally. I don't like tests.
Yes, so I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge, because it's out of the quiz out of 30 marks with 15 questions. If you have got a Twitter account or any social account, you can share it with us and tag hashtag conservation through creativity, hashtag Earth Our Living Planet. Because, you know, if you share it, hashtag Earth Our Living Planet, if it's the best top 10, we're going to share in the credit scene as well. You can stay tuned for that as well. And I guess we're almost ending the session and reaching to our end point. So before we go, thank you for having been with me in today's session. You know, I hope you learned something new, and keep on doing what you do. You know, keep on learning about the natural world. Keep conserving to your creativity, and it's always nature and us. You know, our planet is our responsibility, and you know, together we can help save our planet. Together we can do whatever we want, and we have proved this. And we have proved this in the time of the pandemic. We have worked together to keep everyone safe. And we have done this many millions of times by even having our own conservation stories, conserving blue whales, conserving different animals. And now it's time to save our whole planet and save ourselves. So